I'm a real deal. I'll shoot your liver out and hand it to you.
All right, welcome back to another episode of the Cue It Up podcast. This has been a podcast in the making for about a year and a half now, but it finally came together, which I'm very excited for. I am joined today by the co-founders of the Salotto App, Colby and Reed. How's it going, guys?
Good. Thanks for having us.
Good, Nate. So happy to be on your show. It's a year long coming.
Yes, it's been a little bit of planning, but that just means it's going to be so good. With all this planning that went into it, it's going to be the best.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally.
All right, so we will start off with, of course, the boring, generic, everybody knows it's coming question. Tell us about the starting and the formation of the Salotto app, both with the ideas and how it started to come together.
All right, I'll kick this off, and then Reed can actually articulate. We are both longtime league players and love our local leagues and enjoy the play there, but sometimes we have odd schedules or can't make a league night or just plain want to play more pool. And so we were trying to figure out ways to do that and match up with like competitors, like-minded people who love pool. And so Salotto came from that need where there was a void of how much pool we could play, and we wanted to fill that need. And then we realized that other people also have that problem. So that was kind of Salotto was the solution to allow people to play more pool.
Yeah, that's well said. This started about 2.5 years ago. This is actually before I joined Colby's team in league, and he would wrap up a league night on Tuesday night and then come over to my house, and we get some late night games in, and we would just play sets for 3-4 hours. And that's when this idea spawned. Kind of off the cuff, Colby said, what if there was a utility to connect pool players and allow ranking and get people to connect and play more? And we stood on that idea and just kept building it up until we actually got our quote unquote shit together and put a little pitch, assembled a pitch based on our idea. And we went forth and competed for a state grant. We ended up beating 22 other applicants to win a state pre-seed money grant called the Kickstart Grant. And that gave us $50,000 of grant money to get things rolling. And at that point, we formed an office and really got serious and looked at raising more money, and then further developed the idea, and then got going and engaged a development team. And now 1.5 years has passed since that day, and here we are.
I'm not going to say that there's been thousands of people that have probably came up with that same idea of how can we make this like more official, but you guys followed through with it. You guys did it. I feel like a lot of people have wanted to have a more convenient, organized way of playing pool with their buddies and have it kind of mean something, right? But you guys followed through with it. I mean, who hasn't said that at some point?
Right. And we recognize that the idea is not unique and not revolutionary. But we also recognize that a lot of people that have good ideas, like you mentioned, the pursuit and maybe the follow through isn't there, because you need to be at the right stage in your life. You need to be at the right experience level to get all that done. And I had actually exited a retail business that I had because of an eminent domain issue, and I lost the business. And it just so happened that the timing was right to get started on another project. So, whatever the idea might be, it's the hard work and the pursuit and the execution that really makes it work.
I like the way that you worded that. It's the right experience, right? You can't just jump out of welding school and become a heart surgeon, right? So what do you guys actually do? What is your background? How did you come to have the experience, as you so put it, to be able to start this app?
So we kind of have different backgrounds, but we often joke about being like, this is a little bit bromancy, but we're kind of like a lid in a jar. We fit together really well because of our differing experiences. I was a high school English teacher for, I don't know, a decade or so. And So I'm basically like an enthusiast of words. I really enjoy communicating. I really enjoy the interactions between people and human behavior, and I've done a lot of studying on that. And growing up was kind of hustler is the wrong word, but I was always out kind of wheeling and dealing, buying and selling cars and motorcycles and bicycles, and that's where I met Reed, was in what he calls my chop shop. I had a garage full of stolen bikes that I would put together and sell, and so we kind of grew up together that way. And Reed was a highly successful entrepreneur, basically from about the time people said he should get a real job, and I'll let him pick up there.
Yeah, I don't know. My attitude doesn't permit working well with a boss or anybody that really oversees what I do. And it started out as a problem, but I got a degree in photography from a community college, and then decided to move out of Wyoming, move to Portland, Oregon. And I was really into mountain bike trials and mountain bike stunt riding at the time. I ended up hooking up with the right pro riders and putting my photography career to use, and actually started a little film production company called Calculated Risk Films, and released 3 mountain bike trials films in a period of 4 years that had worldwide distribution. And I look back, I had no idea what I was doing on a business sense, but had every idea what I was doing on an artistic sense. And it took about 20 years for the business to catch up to the art. And I went through a variety of different startup businesses, but really enjoyed the startup process. Just bringing an idea to reality, and that path of like conception to actually something to market is a really fun journey. I've done that in software. I've done that with a coffee house. We've done that with a small fix and flip real estate company, and done that a little bit in the oil and gas realm as well. So a lot of different experiences in startup and a business formation. And then it was clear, like, we did a lot of research on this, a lot of market research, and in the billiards industry, and realized, that there is a little bit of a room for us to do this and bring it in and have a viable company. So it was really fun to take that idea and something in a realm that I love, and love to play pool. So it was really fun to be in an industry that also is a kind of a recreational and leisure type industry.
I really like the way that you put one part of that. You said the billiard industry was ready, in so many words. You said the billiard industry was ready for something like this. Of course, if you're not familiar with the Salotto app, this is probably a little ways into the podcast at this point to find out what it is. But I agree with you. The pool world was kind of uniquely ready for something like this. Why don't you actually take us through what your app actually allows for?
Okay, so I'll back up just a little bit. Our love for the pool industry stems decades, and the community of people that play pool come from all walks of life. I mean, you can be, like your example before, you can be a welder or a heart surgeon, and when you get on the pool table, it doesn't matter what you do for work. What matters is your love for the game and your skill and whether or not you can deliver on those skills. And I love the way that it strips away all that other crap, and you just play pool and you love it. And so coming to an idea where you could unite a group of people on a more frequent basis for an industry that you love that has such a sense of community was really powerful for us. The Salotto app basically is a meetup app for pool players. It's, we joke about that it's a dating app for players, but all we're looking to do is play more pool, and the Salotto app is a utility designed to connect players who want to meet up and play matches of pool. I mean, that's the simplest way to put it.
Yeah, and then we've incorporated a really active and live scoring feature into the game where, instead of checking a box with a pencil and a small piece of paper, we've got a nice user interface where you can play a set, and you win your game, you click the checkbox, and it gives you a lot of kind of visual reward in your whole process throughout a match. Once the match is complete, everything goes into a statistics section where you can see where you rank against all other Salotto players, and we'll actually be rolling out some more technical statistics here very soon, which we're really excited about, to give you kind of where you stand in a 30-day cycle as well as overall. But in addition to that, our recent relationship with Fargo has tackled something that we wanted to do from the beginning of this, and that is give pool players an open source way to play matches and submit the results to Fargo Rate anytime or any place. And that's one of the things that we were frustrated about is, we had to wait for an upcoming tournament. We had to wait for league season. And why? Like, we want to play pool more than 6 months a year. And then summer leagues are actually really hard for us. So we want to play on our own time and at our own place. And that's what Salotto does. It allows you to do that, your place, your pace, your table, and actually treat those matches at a really high level of competition and get your heart rate up and get that anxiety that you feel in a tournament at your home table. And that's what Salotto does.
I guess I want to go back to the incentives, because I'd be remiss to say that one of the biggest supporters to my podcast right now, I believe, is actually winning the individual, I guess, leaderboards for what it is right now. I believe Aaron Taylor sent me a message a couple days, or maybe about a week ago, which was a screenshot of him winning the leaderboards for the kind of sessions, I guess. Do you want to talk a little bit about that, which it kind of gives you even gives you a little bit more incentive to play?
Yeah, totally. So Aaron's actually a really cool guy, which you probably know. He's one of those guys that kind of had a connectivity issue or a bug that he found and reached out to us, and we were able to kind of build that rapport with him. He seems like a really great guy, but yeah, he was asking about what that means to be on the top of the ranking. And as we grow, it will obviously mean more. But right now we have like a 90-day rolling cycle. So actually, this is he maybe doesn't know this yet, but I sent him an email this morning that explained what he'll win if he keeps that top spot, which is like a $400 break jump combo cue and a swag bag from Salotto with a bunch of goodies in it. And as time rolls on, that turns into cash and it turns into bigger prizes. And we want to make this the thing where people really put a lot of weight into the ranking, and that's different than the rating. And I might, if we get a chance, revisit our partnership with Fargo Rate when that question pops up. But we don't have to cover that right now. But yeah, Aaron, if he holds his top spot, he stands to win some goodies. And there's some bragging rights,
Of course.
There's like 6,000 or 7,000 downloads for Salotto right now, and he's the number one dude.
Yeah, and it's funny, we had never heard of Aaron until he popped up on the leaderboard, and I thought, wow, who is this guy?
Yeah.
And he played with an aggressive frequency of matches and played consistently, and it was really cool to watch somebody kind of come in from a new user and then work their way up the leaderboard.
Yeah. So I guess take us through how one would become the leader, because as much as I know Aaron and I know his game is good and it's coming along really well, he's not like an 800 Fargo level player. So how do you actually come to be the leader of the leaderboards?
So the leaderboard is not based on your ability; it's based on your frequency of wins and losses over games played. So right now we're letting the players work out finding somebody in their own kind of a skill level to play. And we have a couple different pieces involved with that. We have a really kind of basic league rating that you can select in an A, B, C, D scale. And then more importantly than that, if your Fargo rate is connected, then you can seek out a game against somebody within your Fargo rating spectrum. So myself, I'm a little over 400. So let's say I'd go out there and I'd look for a match race to 5. And I would look for Fargo rated players between 400 and 500 to kind of get within that realm. So no matter who you're playing against, the math and statistics of the outcome are the same. So we're looking at that gross number of matches played and then a win-loss ratio. And that's how people are working up the leaderboard right now.
So Aaron would have basically, he's playing a lot and he's winning a lot. That's how he climbs the leaderboard.
Perfect. All right, so we've already touched it a few times, but the big reason I wanted to bring you guys on today, I've been using you guys as a reference to a lot of the people that I've been working with, Sam Nestis, John Dunlop, of course Aaron Taylor a little bit, Clayton, who I've been working with more recently, Sarah's been using it. I think that there's a lot of players that I've been trying to move in the way of Salotto because you guys are now working with Fargo Rate, to where you can play a Salotto match and have the ability to actually get a Fargo rate if you do not have one. So you do not have to go to a open tournament or a 550 and under, whatever it is, spend $400 or $500 to try to get 250 games into the system, where you're only getting between 3 and 10 games any given time. Maybe sometimes even less if you're not the best of players and you're just trying to work your way up the game. You could go to a weekly tournament and only get to play 6 games, lose 3-0, 3-0, and then you're 6 games on your way to being an established player. And that's a lot of money over the course of time just to get established, and it takes a lot of time. If you go to a weekly tournament every single week, getting 6 to 10 games a pop, this could take you months and hundreds of dollars to do this. It's a pretty fantastic thing that you're able to do this on the Salotto app, and theoretically, you can get 200 games in just a handful of days. Right.
Yeah. The Fargo rate guys are, well, first of all, they're amazingly smart, and Fargo rate has a depth of complexity that is both available to the user in terms of its simplicity, but also robust in its ability to provide an accurate narrative for a pool player's ability over time. Matching up with those guys and meeting them and aligning with them has shown us truly like what it means to have a clear, clean direction for a piece of the pool industry. These guys are super, super aware of what it means to have integrity in a data sense. So they guard that really closely because they know that people hold a lot of weight in Fargo rate and it matters. So they saw a vacancy in their ability to provide that narrative for people who can't go to these tournaments. They wanted people to have the ability to get Fargo rated matches in and hadn't quite found a way to do it. And matching up with them solve that problem. So Salotto is really proud and honored to be a part of Fargo Rates. I guess we're like under the umbrella, powered by Fargo Rate is the statement that they use. And it's been a really cool journey to bring this service to the public of pool players. It's really cool. I mean, I could go on and on about how fun it's been to work with these guys, but yeah, I mean, that's the gist of it. There was a void there for Fargo Rate players, and we're really, really happy to be able to fill that void.
No problem. Okay, so of course, it makes it very, very easy for me as a, I guess, beginning instructor. I don't want to say beginning instructor. I've been doing it for quite a while now. But the hardest thing that I see from somebody, and I try to work with people who are being introduced to the game for the first time. I love working with people who have been stuck at the same level for 20 to 30 years as well, and they just can't seem to break through that that plateau they've been on. But I mostly like working with younger players who really have that huge fire in their gut. And we talked about this a little bit before we actually started the podcast. I love the idea of being able to work with these people who all they care about is pool and getting better at pool, and they're playing 10 to 15 to 20, or, if you're Sam Nestis, you're playing as many as 60 hours a week every single week.
Wow. Dude, Sam's going to be a fire. Yeah.
Sam is going to be a beast. Sam is going to be a beast. He works with me every single Monday, and he plays, 50 to 60 hours a week, every week, doesn't take any time off. It's crazy.
Dude, that is a work ethic. Holy cow.
So, but there's players like this who we've all been there at some point in time, especially if you're like a good player, you're a 600 plus level Fargo. You've had this stretch in your life where for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 years, however long it was, you could not get enough pool in your life. And these players, they just don't have the resources or the knowledge to really be able to immerse themselves within the pool community as a whole. And that's one of the things I really love doing, is not only taking these players in and trying to help them build a pool game off of a stern foundation of mechanics and knowledge, but also really to help them branch out into the pool community as a whole, so where they can find the resources that they need later on for events, tournaments, different people in the industry that could help them out, even as far as like vendors and where they can get equipment, stuff like that. And one of the biggest hurdles that I've run into is no matter how much knowledge I have and am able to express that to the person, as far as events go, they can't play in any of them because their Fargo rate just doesn't exist. And it takes so long to actually get to the point to where you can actually start playing in these tournaments. And it's frustrating to go to these tournaments a little, and spend $100 over the course of, 3 weeks, and they get 10 games into the system, or 20 games into the system, and next thing you know, you're a tenth of the way there, and you're $100 invested, and it's really frustrating. So, I mean, I think that this, as long as the word gets out that Salotto app is available, tell us about how much it actually costs to be part of this, to be able to potentially save yourself crazy amounts of money in the long term by not going to, these weekly events every single week and kind of getting your face kicked in.
Yeah, totally. Nate, we 100% agree with you, and that was so much motivation for us to get partnered with Fargo Rate, to just to allow that. Like one of our advertisements says, play at your pace in your place. So the cost structure. So I'm going to start with the Salotto cost structure, and we have it's free to download Salotto. It's free to find and join any games, always with a free account, free to play, and free to get your Salotto rankings. Now, where we charge within the Salotto app is hosting or creating the matches. So let's say that somebody like yourself wanted to host a race to 5 at a local pool hall. You would essentially go in and click the plus button in the Salotto app and be able to create the parameters of that game. Now, there's a couple different ways you can pay for that. One thing that we do for the free users is we give them one free match creation per month. If you want to create an additional match, you can do it on a like pay as you play basis, and it'd be 99 cents to create that match. If you think you're going to create more than 4 or 5 matches per month with Salotto, then it's probably a good idea to subscribe. And to be a member, it's $4.99 a month. So it's about $5 a month to be a Salotto Pro member, or $50 a year. We offer a little bit of a discount if you pay annually. So now that we've kind of got that thing covered, there are additional fees in the Fargo Rate submission. And so obviously, we have a lot of checks and balances in place to make sure there's not erroneous or gamed data submitted to Fargo Rate. So that cost of match submission is very important, because if somebody opts to take advantage of the system, then there are costs involved, and it creates a really nice barrier for us. To submit up to a race to 10 games to Fargo Rate, it's $1.99. So you can submit 19 games of data for $1.99. So we're looking around that 10 to 12 cents per game submitted to Fargo Rate. As you go up, it costs a little bit more. So the next tier is $3.99 from 11 to 15 games, and then $4.99 from 16 to 25 games. And when I say games, that would be a match and a race to that many games.
Let me go a little bit step back here. When Sam was originally trying, we just talked about Sam a little bit. When he was originally trying to get his Fargo Rate established, he would go to a weekly tournament at a local pool hall close to myself, and you'd pay $20 to get a opportunity at a race to 3. And if the field was bigger, it was a race to 3 on the A side and a race to 2 on the B side. So the first 3 times we went, I actually don't think he won a match, and I think he only won maybe 1 or 2 games. Sorry if I'm wrong on that, Sam. I don't even know if you listen to the podcast, but if you do, sorry if I'm wrong on that. But by the end of this, he had $60 invested, plus his time and gas, whatever. He had $60 invested, and I believe he only got about 20 games in the system. What you're saying is you can get $20, or for $20, you're basically at 200 games is kind of what it comes down to.
That's correct.
Yeah, that's right. So to clarify on that a little bit, we see Salotto as a slice of the pool pie, if that makes sense. We all love to go to tournaments and play these strangers and meet new people and get a shot at the pot, that kind of stuff. There's definitely some allure and drive and joy of going to these tournaments. But in the interim, like you said, there's a need to play these matches and get established. And so we see Salotto as a feeder program to tournaments and leagues. We see it as a void filler and a piece of that pie. And we enjoy coming into this, like a lot of times we'll go to a tournament and then after the tournament, let's say we go 2 and out, then we break out the Salotto app and get busy. And so it really fills in those gaps nicely.
And it's funny, Nate, today is Tuesday, and we get into the office on Tuesdays and we're stoked because it's league day, right? So we play in a local AA Valley league, in which we love, and we have a great team, but we play 4 games. In a duration of 2 hours, we play 4 games. And that is like I often say it's like going to an all-you-can-eat buffet and grabbing a cracker. And it's like, and I want more than a cracker. So what's cool is our league nights are now like Salotto nights as well. So before we go to league, we'll pop up a couple of matches. Colby played a race to 7 with the number 4th guy in the state and beat him last week, which was awesome. So Salotto gives that opportunity to create that tournament setting after league. And that's what I'm most stoked about tonight is whoever we play, if you don't feel like you had a fair shake in that one game in the Valley format, create a race to 3, race to 5, race to 7, whatever, and put a little bit of heat on. And we usually do get those matches submitted to Fargo rate as well after our regular league play.
Yeah. So you would we do have to kind of handle the dark side of this as well, because of course we are pool players, so that means we're inherently more sketchy than the rest of the population of the world.
Totally.
I've heard that.
Yeah. Let's go into the dark side. Shoot.
Of course. So
666, man. You're a great leader.
Yeah.
Darks.
Yeah. My Fargo rate did just get updated to 666 today, so I'm feeling a little bit more evil than normal, I guess. So you guys touched on it a little bit, but take us through the actual process of how you have the safeguards in place to stop somebody from actually farming the Salotto app to either dump a Fargo or get it down for, maybe starting it out with a brand new Fargo and getting it lower than what it should be.
Right. Okay. So there's a few ways to look at this. One, we have to look at the general pool playing population. And for the most part, these are good people, right? We bank on the same way that a stop sign banks on the population that most people are going to stop. And it's blatantly obvious when somebody does not stop at the stop sign. Usually there's something that goes on. Where
I feel attacked right now.
So
I'm like the guy that doesn't stop.
Yeah, you're just kind of rolling through. So anyway, we know that like a very low percentage of people work to game their Fargo rate and cheat. Like that percentage of people is low enough that it's almost inconsiderable, but it's high enough that we have to address it to the degree that we create filters that push them away far enough that there's no incentive to do that. And we also have to make sure that those filters and barriers are not so high that the person with regular amount of integrity isn't pushed away as well. So there's a very fine line in that barrier system. And we've worked hard with Fargo rate to incentivize good behavior and deter bad behavior with a few different things. One of which is the cost that Reed mentioned earlier. The other is that verified Salotto player app. The other is we have a good action rating in the app. So if we show up to play and your devilish 666 Fargo rate score, you beat me and I'm pissed off about it. We have the end result is that I can choose to give you a good action rating or skip that. And so it's kind of like an eBay power seller where it keeps track of the number of times somebody has said, yeah, I played this guy and it was fun and he was a nice guy. So we kind of put those 4 tenets in place to ensure that. And now the other side of it is that with the cost structure that we have set up and how hard it is, the people who are wanting to game their Fargo rate are not your 400 and 500 level players. These are your 600, 700 guys that can if they can get down their Fargo rate, they can go win some money at a tournament. But it's so difficult to bring that Fargo rate down through the Salotto app that you're going to be investing more money in cheating than you have a chance to win at the tournament that you're going to spend $500 to go attend. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
The scale is such that it doesn't really benefit the person who's trying to throw their Fargo rate, and they aren't going to get the traction in the app. Nobody's going to want to play those guys if they know they're sandbagging. I mean, the same way that you don't play the hustler at the pool hall is the same way that you wouldn't go play Joe on the Salotto app, because every time you do, you get, hustled or whatever. So it's really just a little closer lens on the already accepted integrity of a system where you know who to play and who not to play.
I'll expand a little bit. Colby mentioned the 4 tenets, and these are 4 subjects that we focused very strongly on as we integrated this partnership. And the 4 tenets are: 1, the match must be scheduled ahead of time. And it doesn't need to be a day ahead of time. It can be a few minutes ahead of time. But the reason for that is we need a timestamp and a location stamp on that game. The second tenet is the results of the match are submitted no matter the outcome. So, obviously, if you could control the submission of the results, whether you win or lost, that wouldn't be right. So no matter what the results of that match are, they still get submitted to Fargo Rate. And then beyond that, all of these results played in these quote unquote public matches need to be publicly available. So through the Fargo Rate app, you could look up a player and click public matches when you see their profile and see all Salotto matches they played, if any. So that way anyone can go out and look and say, okay, Colby beat Shane Van Boning 10-1.
I'm gonna have to question that.
So that data is going to stink, right? And then the last tenet would be the cost of submission, which Colby touched on. In addition to that, there's a pretty robust chunk of code that Fargo Rate has, which they often refer to as Guardian code, which looks for duplicate matches and a lot of other indications that would create a flag for fraud.
Perfect. Regardless, there is lots of, guardrails in place that stops any sort of nefarious actions from those sketchy 666 devilish pool players.
Right. Yeah. Steve and Mike at Fargo Rate are very they are so aware of what these things look like and how to avoid this bad behavior in order to maintain Fargo Rate integrity. It's really been nice to work with them because you can't go forward knowing that there's a potential for this stuff. So safeguarding against it is the best way to do it. And we've been really happy to like come up with this set of parameters that walks that line in an appropriate way.
For sure. All right. So I have two more questions. One's going to be more directed, so I will start it here. We, of course, are in 2020, which means lots of COVID, lots of shutdown, lots of not being able to, group up in bigger groups to be able to play larger events or maybe even smaller events. So this might be putting you guys on the spot a little bit, but is there any sort of plans in place that maybe they're going to partake in Fargo, maybe they won't? I don't know a situation where you'd really be able to apply this to Fargo, but has there been any talks about creating a type of ghost format in the Salotto that will allow me to play, let's say, against Reed or you, Colby, and actually have it, a game where we can compete against each other given our individual Fargo rates? Is there any sort of ghost type of games that you guys have planned coming up in the near future?
Okay, well, I don't want to let all of the cat out of the bag, but we do have some remote play stuff in the works. We already offer 3-ball on the app, obviously, but that's not a Fargo rated type event. But we have been talking with Fargo Rate a little bit about how you might conduct, and I'm going to be cryptic here on purpose, but how you might conduct a worldwide tournament through Salotto, so that people can still play and have 1v1 matches count as third-party matches for Fargo Rate. I'll let Reed pick up a little bit more on that.
Yeah, I'll pick up on it. So, this is a little ways out, what Colby's mentioning. We have obviously a lot of hurdles to overcome there when people cannot be face-to-face. Our current advice in the COVID world is basically to listen to the rules of your city, state, federal government, whatever municipality you might be conducting yourself in, and just obey those rules. We've a really good fit with a 1v1 utility right now to connect basically one player against another player, because a lot of these restrictions, as are limitations to certain people in an indoor space. So that unfortunately kills a lot of the large tournaments, but fortunately it does allow people to play competitively through Salotto. One of the things that we've got going on right now, which is a really fun format, in lieu of a lot of the tournaments canceled in our area, is we've put together a Grand Prix, which is not a unique type of format to competitive pool, but it's a race to a certain level of points. And we open our Grand Prix to fields of 10. And what's really cool is we create a group message through Facebook right now until we can have our messaging done and integrated into Salotto, which is in the works. But right now we're using this Facebook messaging service, and we have all 10 players on, and it's really neat to see how they play at their own pace. So in the Grand Prix format, basically every player has to play everybody else, and we're seeing that get done within. We just started a Grand Prix last Saturday, and we've already got somebody up to 49 points out of 80 points. So they basically can go play whoever else is available whenever and wherever, and that's been a really cool format. And everything is all the scores are kept through Salotto, and then in turn with this particular tournament, all the results are submitted to Fargo as well.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So then the last question I'll have for you guys is, of course, I asked a very directed question and actually got a pretty good answer out of it. That's I expected a little bit more of like well, we can't really tell you all the goods, but yeah, you guys totally gave up the goods there, so that's pretty fun. Must be that's great questions.
Not politicians.
So what else do we have to look forward to with the Salotto non-directed towards a specific type of question? What do we get to look forward to? Any projects coming up that might be a little bit bigger in the near future?
Well, we're obviously, looking at some new ranking structures where we're going to do like monthly awards and payouts and things like that to let more Aaron Taylors into the party. And that's really fun to increase the frequency by which people can see some results from their play on the app. The other is that development of software is always underway, and bug fixes are coming pretty much daily. It's really hard to have a customer come to us through email or through phone or Facebook comment and have had an experience that didn't meet their expectations. And we really enjoy the opportunity to build that rapport and do the kind of handshake, even if it's digital, and help them see that we're also pool players. We also love this. And because they were willing to give us the feedback, we consider that and want to make the app better based on their expectations. So really, the bug fixes have a beautiful silver lining that it allows us to connect with users and make the product better for what people want.
Yeah, and we take it so seriously. I mean, we're pool players before we're Salotto co-founders. And we created this out of a personal need and a personal desire to play more pool at our own pace. And given that any experience we see one of our customers have or one of our users have that is less than good, it is our paramount goal to get that repaired and deliver everybody a good experience. And like Colby said, software is this always evolving blob, and we can't get everything right all the time. But we really appreciate the user feedback that's helped us create a better product. We're working with our lead code writer, a guy named Brett, who is just awesome. And he just crushes the midnight oil to seek out some of these issues and repair them. So we're looking forward to having, I'm never going to say we'll have a completely bug-free product, but every day we have a better product, which is really exciting.
Yeah, for sure. So if the person, whoever is listening to this podcast, decides, wow, this sounds like the app for me, where can they find it?
On the Google App Store or Play Store for iOS, either one, either platform.
We're out for Apple and Android.
Perfect. And of course, I will have the links to that in the show notes. So if you would like to be lazy like I do, you could just go there and find it. All right. Well, Colby, Reed, it's been an absolute pleasure. You guys have made a believer out of me today, and I'm excited to potentially jump in, or I'm excited to jump into the Salotto app and get a couple games in there for myself.
Sounds good.
Awesome, Nate. We really appreciate it. We love your show. We love what you're doing for pool. Just the more guys like you out there putting things into a bit of a spotlight on today's current platforms, we really appreciate it. I mean, it's hard to take in all the pool content that we need to take in, and we've watched last year's Moscone Cup way too much already. So the new stuff you're pumping out is just awesome. We appreciate it. Thank you for having us on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right on, man. Cheers.
Yep. All right. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Hey everyone, thanks again for listening. If you've liked what you've heard and you want to contribute to the future content that will be made, consider joining the podcast's Patreon at www.patreon.com/QItUp. Becoming a Patreon of the podcast will help to create all of the future content that the podcast will have. Special shout out to Dave Peters, Aaron Taylor, Pete Silsby, Morgan Lupton, Ben Young, Robert Miller, Andy Morse, and Bill Pelham for your generous contributions to the podcast's Patreon. If you ever need any more information on what the Patreon system is, or how you can contribute outside of the Patreon, please reach out to the podcast or Neight himself. If you would like to contribute to the podcast for free, consider sharing any podcasts or the podcast page on Facebook itself. Also, leaving a review and a rating if you listen through iTunes. It helps others find the podcast. Thank you for listening, and we'll be back soon with another episode of the Q It Up podcast.